This one, it can be one session. It's after lunch, just after lunch. Same right also just.
And then convergence has happened in PNG, and then you see the licensing expertise which is there in the Samoa and Vanuatu. So it's quite a lot of things happening. So one of the things which at PIRC we're doing is not only talking about the best practices, but also what are the good things happening within the Pacific region. So this center was established last year, and the initial setup started later last year in August when I arrived, and the official opening happened in November 2011. The objective is basically to share information, provide assistance, and collaborate. That's what I just mentioned. All the Pacific Island countries who are the members of the Pacific Forum Island Secretariat, they are automatically eligible to become member of PIRC. All the non-forum members, they would also, at a later stage, we will encourage them to apply because we will cover the whole Pacific Islands. And of course, there is an annual membership. The center is located in USP, and that SCD gives us a lot of leverage because USP has got an ICT center. We have got a lot of activities and other institutions which we are working with, like PETA, like ITU, like PACCERT. They're all located on the same floor. So this gives a lot of advantage to us. And plus, the USP's own unique presence in most of the Pacific Island countries also gives a big boost. It is a joint effort. The seed funding came from World Bank. ADB has also joined in. USP is supporting this initiative. Member countries are also supporting this initiative. And of course, SLAN Asia, which has a lot of experience in Asian markets, emerging markets, had been involved in deregulation and liberalization. So they are also supporting PIRC. And that's the organization itself. The center is actually run by the countries themselves. There is a steering committee where there is a representation from Cook Island, FSM, PNG, Samoa, Vanuatu, and of course USP. And then there is a management committee to actually oversee the day-to-day affairs of the center, where PNG and Fiji is there with the center director. And we have 5 positions under the center director. There is a research assistant position, executive assistant. We are going to look for a regulatory economist, and then there will be a technical advisor, and we have a media advisor. So all these expertise and this ownership from the government by running it and setting the agenda for the whole center actually makes it unique in terms of ICT policy institution or an advisory body. The new committee will be elected on 26th right here in this place in the afternoon. And we will have a new steering committee which will set and approve the agenda for the next 1 year, which we will be working on. Currently, if all the 6 positions, when all the 6 positions are filled up, these are the kind of expertise we will have in-house. And of course, in addition to that, we have access to a pool of consultants and the experts. So that is in addition to that. But in-house, you would see that there is an expertise on IC policy and law, on regulatory economics, technology, spectrum, research, media and publication, and project management. So even if you need some assistance from the center without having any access or without going for any hiring of consultant, you would still see that there is adequate expertise available which can be accessed without no extra cost by all the Pacific Island countries, once, of course, they are members. We have all the important ICT entities in the region as our stakeholders, all the countries, the regional bodies, including SPC, APT, ITU, PIFS, And then we are also talking to all the trade bodies, because they are the users of those policies and regulations which are being made in the governments and the regulators. So you're talking to GSMA, CDG, WIMAX Forum, PETA, and then of course we have a pool of consultants who are also readily available to provide assistance. As I mentioned in the beginning that we were supposed to do the setup from August till now, but actually we have gone much beyond that. So we established the website, did the initial hiring, and then there was a workshop conducted with the regulators in November 2011. I'll show you what are the topics which we will discuss. All the topics are on the website, so you can have access to it. We have established the indicators of all Pacific Island countries. The basic regulatory information about each and every Pacific Island countries is available on the website. We did this a benchmarking that how the information on the web by all the national regulatory authorities is stated and what improvement is required. And then, of course, there was a visit. We also started a rapid response program where we provided quick comments to wherever there was a desire, and we provided some comments on the Fiji ICT policy. Then we also worked with ITU on their assessment reports. We provided comments there. And we are actually in the process of doing more of source responses and comments. There have been a lot of meetings with the stakeholders. PIRC blog has been started. It's basically oriented towards talking about all the good things in the Pacific which are happening, like this, I just mentioned a couple of these in the beginning. And then we are also tracking all the important ICT events. So if you go to the website, you will see all the events which are of some interest to the Pacific Island countries. They're all listed there. So you don't need to go anywhere. It's one stop where you can actually find that what's going on with IGF, which was going on with ITU events, APT events, and everything. And we are also in the process of selecting our logo, which we will decide on 25th. This is the list of the topics which were covered in the workshop, and all the presentations are available. It actually started with the very basic and to the advanced level, and in the end I will show you the reason for that is that there are very different levels of expertise in the regulatory body. Some are very advanced and some are at the very initial stages. So we try to cover all this by going from the key principles of the regulation, which is a very basic thing, and then going to the more complicated one, like regulations for technology migration and network evolution. And then we also talked about comparative indicators and alternate regulatory practices, and of course broadband is one of the topics which we also talked about. We have a plan for next 1 year, and of course this is just a draft because this is subject to the approval of the steering committee, which is going to happen on 25th. So what we will do in this year, if this is approved, that we will conduct a regional survey, because collecting indicators and basic data information is a little challenge in the Pacific. So we will go through a full-blown exercise to actually make sure that we have got all the basic information available with us, which of course will be useful for all the regulators to make their own decisions. And of course, we will have issue of our first annual report during this week. There will be another exercise of website benchmarking to see that how much progress has been made from the last exercise. There is our benchmarking of international direct dialing and regional roaming, which my colleague will be sharing day after tomorrow. We also intend to create or make a toolkit for writing quality determinations for all the regulators. So what are the things which they need to actually keep in mind while coming up with a decision, which of course has an impact on the sector and of course the private sectors and operators. So we will also issue best practices statements, information packages. We have already done one on international grade traffic. We will also conduct speed test of broadband and tool for comparison of tariff. This we will get free of cost from LAN Asia, and we will be very thankful to them. And then of course there will be participation of all these events to make sure that there is enough awareness about the activities of PIRC. During this 1 year, we also found out that there are certain challenges in the Pacific and which needs to be addressed by all the entities which are working for the betterment of the sector here, whether it's APT, whether it's ITU, SPC, PIFS or PIRC, and it is extremely important that we all work together so that we do not waste these very scarce resources. So what we found here is that there is a various level of regulatory maturity from beginners to the expert level. And then, of course, the level of competition varies from monopolies to the full competition. And then, of course, availability of indicators is a challenge. There is a need for spectrum management expertise here. Numbering plan is still being developed by some of the countries, and this is a scarce resource which we all need to understand. It's extremely important to manage that. Quality of service parameters are in a very initial stage. There are universal access schemes that various countries are being considered. The wholesale tariff is a challenge. The expertise on competition and content regulation also needs to be looked at. And then, of course, there is litigation going on. And one of the exercise which from our side we want to contribute is coming up with this toolkit which will improve the quality of the determinations issued by the regulators. And then, of course, international connectivity is a bottleneck. So we expect that all the other entities would also work together to solve all these issues which we have been identifying, and of course will continue to identify more issues, and of course will assist each other, and we will be very happy to assist APT and ITU and of course the other organization in coming up to solving these issues. This is the website. I encourage all of you to go there, and you would see that there is already a lot of information available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hyatt. Our next speaker is known to many of you, Nisa Pusell, who is the project coordinator for ITU based in Fiji. She will be covering capacity building and ICT policies, regulatory and legislative frameworks for the Pacific Island countries, which is also known to many of us as ICB 4PAC. And ICB 4PAC has been a project that has assisted many of us in putting together frameworks and building capacity in a number of different ways. They have conducted workshops, assessment reports on the present situation of licensing, national ICT policies, cybersecurity, universal access and services, and so on. The project is also providing in-country support for many of these topics for a number of us. Nisa will go through what has been done and what she has plans for the future. So, Nisa.
Talafalava Bula. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I don't believe I need to present. She's actually summarized very well what this project is about. So thank you very much. Anyway, that's why I've just cut the whole project presentation down to two. Let's just look at the objectives and the way forward. Okay, the objectives, as you all know, is really giving our countries assistance in the topics that you agreed to when we did our planning meeting in Nandi, 2009. Now, to do that, the reason why we all agreed to do that is because, as we all know, in our own individual countries, we have a lack of human resources. Some countries, we have 2 people in the Ministry of Communications. In some countries, there's only 1. So it means that we have a lot of chiefs here in the Pacific, no Indians. And it's about building human capacity, and as Elizabeth